For 18 months, two task forces have been studying enrollment and facility needs in eastern Carver County schools. The task forces are ready to present their findings for the public's consideration and to gather feedback. To begin, it's important to remember that for 20 years, eastern Carver County schools has been on the edge of suburban growth in the Twin Cities. Even during the recession years, families have selected eastern Carver County schools because of its excellent education. As a result, enrollment growth has not slowed like other places in the Twin Cities.
The district's growth today is mostly on the west side. Clover Ridge and Victoria Elementary schools have been growing steadily. East Union Elementary would be growing too, except it's such a small building. It's always full. In order to better serve young and growing families, the district opened the Family Learning Center in 2012. It's a one-stop location for preschool and early learning. La Academia also opened in 2012.
¿Qué? ¿Van a seguir trabajando con sus pizzas? Estoy súper orgullosa de ustedes.
La Academia is a two-way, dual-language Spanish immersion school. It is recognized by experts as the premier model for second language acquisition. With these new programs in growing schools, the school board created a task force to look at facilities and program needs from early childhood through grade 8.
Thanks to the support of the community 8 years ago, eastern Carver County schools boast two nationally recognized high schools, which are smaller than many suburban high schools. This essentially doubles the opportunities for students in this community to participate in activities, athletics, the arts, and of course, academics. Each school has won numerous national awards. However, the change from one high school to two can shift the dynamics in a community. It was a process the school board wanted to monitor. It created the high school task force and gave it the job of looking at whether differences between the two schools ought to be addressed.
Both task forces began in November of 2012. They reviewed current and projected enrollment and the building capacity for each school. They looked at whether schools were balanced based on diversity and socioeconomic status. They also looked at how the district's system of feeder schools from elementary through high school affects enrollment. They used a 2011 enrollment projection that showed stability and slow student growth. While reviewing all this data and research, the task forces were dealt significant wildcards.
In early 2013, district officials began hearing from cities that as many as 500 new housing permits would be issued that year. This was a stark contrast to the 2011 enrollment study. If the enrollment projection was not accurate, any work based on it would be flawed. A new enrollment study was commissioned in fall of 2013. The high-end estimate is that 700 new elementary students could be in the district in 4 years. The district and the task forces decided to use a conservative projection and estimate 400 new elementary students. That is still far more than the earlier study predicted. Growth at secondary schools was not predicted to be as strong because new home construction tends to attract growing families with younger children.
The second game changer was that state lawmakers provided all-day kindergarten across Minnesota. Starting in the fall of 2014, it will be available to all families in the district at no cost. The change to all-day kindergarten will add more than 250 new students and requires 13 classrooms from existing elementary schools. When the task forces reconvened in January of 2014 as one large group, their priorities looked like this: address elementary school capacity, balance secondary school enrollment, identify long-term plans for La Academia and the Family Learning Center.
Clover Ridge, Victoria, and East Union elementary schools are at capacity. With new houses under construction and all-day kindergarten, these schools and others will grow far beyond their capacities. Chanhassen High School is currently about 300 students larger than Chaska. That disparity will not change according to the demographer's estimate. Chaska's boundary is the city of Chaska, 17 square miles. Chanhassen's boundary is the rest of the district, about 67 square miles. Long-term, this type of imbalance can lead to differences between schools and the programs and services they offer. So far, the district has been careful to prevent this from happening, and most recently completed a $3 million investment in Chaska High School. But a long-term solution is needed. A survey of the community showed that 65% of parents and residents, a clear mandate, favored action to balance the two high schools.
La Academia draws its enrollment from across the district. It is popular and is a stronger alternative to immersion programs offered by other school districts. It's currently 3 grade levels and will grow to be a traditional K-5 elementary school by 2017. La Academia's current location matches its current size, but as it grows, it will need a larger space. The Family Learning Center has an exclusive space inside Chaska High School. It is safe and secure for those students and families. This is the first time in many years that all early learning programs are combined into one location. It is a model that concentrates expertise in early learning, and the staff there provides excellent, high-quality education to children and families. Long-term, Chaska is expected to grow and will not be able to accommodate the Family Learning Center.
The task force has reviewed a number of solutions, which can be summarized as 3 options: cram, shuffle, or build. The options are being presented now to gather feedback.
Let's start by looking at the first option, which is to fit all students within existing elementary space in the district. This is the cram option. Extensive boundary changes would need to be made, and the task forces even looked at a rough draft. Essentially, all school boundaries would try to stretch as far west as possible to capture the growth on that side of the district. Now for the pros and cons. On the pro side, this is the least expensive option. It was designed to use all available space with no additions or leases. The only way for the district to maximize all of its elementary space is to ignore traditional neighborhood schools and bus students back and forth across the district. The other negative part of this option is that it would require increased class sizes. The only way to cram all students into their elementary school is to put more students into each classroom. There is no possibility for balancing diversity or socioeconomic status in this option, nor are there long-term solutions for La Academia and the Family Learning Center.
The second option for managing elementary space is known as the shuffle. With elementary enrollment growing and secondary enrollment stable, the district could reconfigure grade levels to move 5th grade students out of elementary buildings and into middle school buildings. Not all 5th graders could move, however, because that would overcrowd middle schools. So the task forces looked at targeted moves, such as taking 5th grade classes out of Clover Ridge and Victoria and placing them into their respective middle schools. On the plus side, for the shuffle option, it is also inexpensive. But some school renovations or equipment purchases may be necessary. Given a choice, this is more workable than the cram option. But the shuffle also has drawbacks. First, a few students would change schools for 5th and for 6th grade. This option, like the cram option, does not address the Family Learning Center or La Academia. Nor is there any way to balance diversity or socioeconomic status. The shuffle would prevent immediate overcrowding in elementary schools, but enrollment would continue to grow. Its biggest drawback is that it's a short-term fix. It creates a lot of churn and potential anxiety for families without the promise of something better. This option would just kick the problem down the road a few years.
The third option is to build to accommodate current and future classroom needs. It would require the school board to place a bond and levy on the November 2015 ballot. The current recommendation from the task forces is to build a new elementary school and add 12 classrooms as additions to existing schools. By adding space, other programs begin to have viable options. La Academia could be moved into an existing school building, either by sharing space or as its own school. The Family Learning Center could then move into La Academia's current location. A new school requires new boundaries. That work could be joined with the secondary boundary revisions. Then all boundary changes, including high schools, would happen at one time when the new school opens. Given a successful referendum in 2015, the earliest a new elementary school could open its doors is fall of 2017. This option would require some interim fixes, particularly for Clover Ridge and Victoria, which will not be able to absorb all of the new housing growth. As a short-term solution, the task forces suggest that areas where construction is still underway could be placed in the boundaries of the schools with available space. And narrow boundary adjustments focusing on 1 or 2 neighborhoods or select grade levels also could be considered in the interim. The biggest upside to this option is that it creates long-term solutions for the district's space and facility needs. Under its current design, the build option would postpone a decision on high school boundaries. The task force's rationale for waiting is that a future boundary task force could look at incorporating the new elementary school into the district's feeder school model. The biggest shortcoming for the build option is that there is no guarantee a referendum will be successful.
In conclusion, The community is being asked to weigh the pros and cons of these options. Members of the public may have their own suggestions. Input can be sent to feedback@district112.org. Public comments will be reviewed by the task forces in preparation for a recommendation to the school board.
This is the time for input and review from the community. Thank you for the time you gave to listen to all of this information.